Okay, summer 24, prep for basic chemistry students. I want to go through this to show you the outline of the course. So if you hit home, you're going to see this screen. We are using 3 different textbooks, whichever one, if you want a hard copy, you're going to want to order whichever the cheapest is of, this is the 3rd edition, and this is the 4th edition. You can get it pretty cheap on A Books or Amazon or something. Otherwise, this 4th edition, there is a textbook right here. You just hit this and this will download the entire textbook. The numerous places, the deadlines for everything you'll find. So here's points, deadlines for all assignments. If you click this, you need a basic calculator. If you click this, TI-30XA would be nice. YouTube chemistry help, Tyler DeWitt, would be very beneficial to look at if you want a different perspective on things. And then here's my contact information. Otherwise, everything is going to be in modules here. So I'm going to click on modules. In fact, I'm going to click that home and I'm going to go to student view. Nah, I just clicked the wrong one. Student view, here we go. That's in modules. And I'm on student view here as well. All right, so the student view looks exactly like I would expect it to look. And then you're going to be looking at modules and just look at everything here. Now, this is the recording I'm doing right now. So new recording coming, you're going to see that disappear because I'm putting a new recording in here. Here's an office hour link. And then here's a synchronous lab quiz homework meeting room. If you got somebody else in the course, there's a Zoom meeting here. You can just log in with that person and it'll automatically open up and your mics should be live right away. And again, it warns here, you're going to have a hot mic. So if you want to Zoom meet with somebody, you can just click it right there. So going back to modules, if we scroll down, everything here is in order all the way through. So here's unit 0, just reference materials. Now, the very first thing you want to do is put this Canvas student app on your phone. So go to the App Store, put this Canvas student app, then you have to link it to CVTC and link it to this course. And that way, anytime I send an email or you have things you have to do, deadlines, you can look right there on that Canvas student app. Then we'll submit assignments with Adobe Scan probably works the best. This cam scanner I'm going to take off, or Office Lens. I really should say Office Lens here. So I'm going to modify this after this recording. You're probably just going to have Office Lens. So that's a PDF scanner app, and that's how we will submit our homework. So install Office Lens. All right, here is the 4th edition of a textbook. So if we click on this, it's going to download it. And I'm going to be able to open that up here after it downloads. And while that is downloading, let's see if I have it already in here. Yeah, here's a copy of it right here. So this is the exact 4th edition here of our textbook. So everything is here, complete 4th edition. Okay, let me go back here to modules. So there's our textbook. Here's textbook and textbook homework. This is in various places. Now, when you click on something, this is a Google Doc, and just hit download. Somewhere, just download everything. So this kind of gives us a summary of our homework. It's opening up in Word on my other screen, and now I can pull it up. But this is in various places. So this gives, let me make this bigger. So this is chapter 2. This is the 3rd edition of the book, the 4th edition of the book, and the 5th edition of the book. Now this is a PowerPoint slide number here. So you're going to do whatever homework listed for their particular textbook that you have. All right, let me slide this out of the way here. And let me go back to modules again. So textbook homework, master schedule with deadlines for the entire course. If you click on this, it's going to be a Google Doc again. And somewhere you should be able to do file and download, which is what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to download that to a Word doc. And there it is. And I'm going to pull this over. So let me make this a little bit smaller. And here. Okay. So our summer date is June 10th through August 9th. This is the recommended deadline if you want to stay ahead, kind of go by these dates. And then location online, no points deadline date, or no late points. So you get 5 extra days. After 5 days, it just automatically is going to go to a 0. You get 1.5% per day off for those 5 days, which is not very much. So if you don't want any points off, this is the no late points deadline, but it will completely go to a 0 5 days from this date in this column. So here's extra credit. Everything's kind of numbered in order, but extra credit is due July 14th. And this is how you're going to submit an Office Lens upload. Here's a no-show assignment. You're going to want to do an Office Lens upload. And that will be, I will show you that. There's a discussion intro. So now they start in numerical order, like 1, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5. U1 is unit 1. Okay, so this is for the summer. We get all done. There's 18 points here. Now, something new this year is there's time off for the July 4th week. If you want to keep working ahead or you need a break, but you're going to see a gap here. July 1 to July 8, there's a 7-day gap here. Okay. Yeah, so 800 points, and then this kind of gives the breakdown for your points here of what you need, whatever grade you're looking for. And this is a summary. Unit 1 has a total here of 75 points, and so on. You have to complete all the exams. Okay, and here is a summary of homework again. I've got that all over the place. All right, I'm going to close this out. I'm going to go back to modules. So I'm still in student view, so you should be able to see exactly what I'm looking at here. Here's a course syllabus. And it says to see syllabus over here, which is right there. Now, you can click through this, install free Office on your personal computer, do this. You get Office for free. And this I'm going to change. This should be Office 365 now. Let's see if this one still works for us, which it looks like. Yes, it goes to Office 365. So I think that will work. I've got this in another spot here. Yeah, Office 365. No matter what, if you cannot get Office 365 installed on your computer, call the help desk. And I have the help desk number in here somewhere, 830-5555, 715-830-5555. Okay, now this says full semester print dump. So I've just been updating this all day here. So if I'm going to download this document, and if you can get to a printer, you have access to a printer somewhere, this is the entire semester of document that you would need. You would print this double-sided. This is all set up to do double-sided printing. So somewhere, someday, somehow, a friend's house, whatever it takes, this would be everything for the course, and it's all laid out. If you 3-hole punch this and put it in a small binder, you can see that it's double-sided. It's going to be 83 pages. Okay, so this is the entire print dump. Here's homework, and then here's slide number 37. So when you see homework, it'll say slide number listed for homework. So there's recorded videos that go with all of this. So the layout of the course looks like this. In the beginning, there's this quiz that you work on slowly. And then as you go, you will just enter the answers for this at the end of the unit. And some of these will be talked about in class with the recording. So, yep, you'll just enter these answers when we're all done here. So these are some slides that go with this unit. And then when we're done with this unit, that quiz will be due, and then we'll have a little test. Okay. So that's kind of the layout. Again, if I keep scrolling, here's a sheet we'll hand in, or this will be scanned. Okay, so that's a full semester print dump. It has everything for the semester. Here's a color periodic table. I think this is the one that you'll see. Yeah, if you can get a good print out of this, that would be nice. Okay, back to modules. So that's kind of just says unit 0. And then here's a pink sheet. You'll see this when I put it under the screen, it'll be in pink. Okay, here's unit 0.5. Do these 3 activities, or we have to drop you as a no-show. So here's a no-show requirement for every student. This is where it will mention Office Lens. Again, Adobe Scan, I think, is the one. I'm going to modify this. Adobe Scans or Office Lens. I think it's Office Lens. Office Lens is the one I want. Sorry. Office Lens does the best job out of this. So this will show you how to install Office Lens. Okay, back to modules. So here's a no-show syllabus quiz. You get 3 attempts, and then introduce yourself and reply to one other person. So that right there is the first 15 points. Then unit 1 starts out with kind of learning the elements. And the reason we do that is when we get to writing formulas of compounds, like silver nitrate or something like that. You're not looking the symbol for silver up. And you can do it kind of rapidly. So the first quiz is 0 points. You can do this 100 times. So you just type in whatever the symbol is for aluminum, argon, mercury, and so on. So it looks like you're going to learn about 47 of them. And then the next quiz for 0 points is the names. Now, don't worry if you're not a good typer and things like that. It's going to be multiple choice for the quizzes, and you just click on it. So here's the first quiz. It's worth 5 points. And I'll just open it up here. So you're just going to click on the correct symbols for these. So you have 5 minutes. I want you to kind of memorize these pretty much, but you have 5 minutes. If you've got most of them memorized, that leaves you about 45 seconds to probably look some up at the end. So one of them is all symbol answers. Then this quiz is all name answers. And you just click on them again. So you're not, has nothing to do with typing. So you just click on them. And then for the test, which is 50 points, and most students do pretty well getting started here, this is mixed response for the test. So the format, if it gives you the symbol, you're going to correctly click on the name. And if it gives you the name, you would correctly click on the symbol. All right, back to module. So that's unit 1. I kind of do that because students are still registering and they can register late. Then unit 2. So here's an introduction to unit 2, but then here's unit 2, documents to print. Now, you don't need to print any of these documents if you do that full semester print dump. These would be exactly the same. And it says download to Word, download to PowerPoint. But again, if you do the full semester print dump, you would have everything here. Every unit has a documents to print. Okay, so you have your documents for unit 2, and now you see there's instructor recorded videos. So these are all in YouTube. And this is just like being in class. So you see approximately how long they are. Some of these are old, some of these are newer. And of course, we got to watch a commercial. So I already started this recording. And we got to watch a commercial again. So this is the PowerPoint slides or from the documents to print. So that's how it's laid out. You see, I was working on a worksheet right there when I clicked out of this. Okay, so this is unit 2. You can see I've got a balance up here. So I'm measuring some stuff. One of these is for a lab. So here's our density lab activity. You will not buy anything for labs. Okay, so that's kind of how it goes. Every unit's the same format. You're going to have documents to print. In those documents to print will always include a quiz and the PowerPoint slides or worksheets. So just do it, stay in modules, and you should be able to just linearly do everything. You'll see the due dates. Here's the quiz for the gradebook. Again, you've solved this ahead of time. So you're just going to enter the quiz answers. The quiz preview is under documents to print. It's the exact same quiz questions. And eventually there's a unit 2 quiz here. I've got this locked somehow for the dates, but here's unit 3. It would be the same thing. And unit 4, here's where the extra credit is due. Unit 5 and unit 6. So that is the layout of the course. So again, I want to summarize. The priority is going to be to get this student app installed. This right here, Office Lens will be the preferred. I'm going to change this so it's just Office Lens. Here's a PDF of the textbook. Here is the textbook homework summary. Here's a master schedule. That master schedule is also included in this full semester print dump. And then install Office on your computer. And again, if you cannot get Office, the help desk is 830-5555. And I'm going to download this, or I'm just going to look at this syllabus. I think it's in here somewhere. Yes, 830-5555. And here's another link for Office to install. So get Office 365 installed so you can download, get everything in Word and PowerPoint, whatever it takes. And if you cannot get Office installed, call the help desk. And you need at least a TI-30XA calculator. That's what I used on the screen. So TI-30XA. And if you want a hard copy of the textbook, let's see. Thrift books is probably, let me see if I can find. Thrift books is pretty good. I'll just look real quick. Oh, so here's the 5th edition of the book for $9.99. So that would not be too bad. See all 35 editions here. So here's the 4th edition. What do they want for this? Doesn't even say. Here's the 5th edition for $9.99. For what the heck, anyway. So this 3rd edition here for $6.19 would be perfect. That's exactly what I've done for the recordings are done with the 3rd edition. So if you want a hardcover book, $6.19, you can find this 3rd edition. Here's the ISBN. This is Thrift Books. There's A Books. Of course, there's Amazon. So, okay, with that, I am going to end this recording. Again, everything's in modules. Just follow along right there. And if you have any questions, email me from your CVTC email. I do not open up outside emails. I get zapped and they make me do this cyber training. So I don't click on Gmails or anything but CVTC emails. So if you got questions, shoot me an email.